Buzz. The glazed light sphere shot up into the sky, streaking across the horizon before it soared directly toward the Maha heaven and the Maha infinite physique beneath it. At first glance, the sphere didn't appear particularly powerful, but when it descended, even Maha heaven felt a bone-chilling cold. A deep sense of dread and unease surged within him. You've actually cultivated the eternal true seal sphere. Maha heaven's face turned ashen. The Mo ancient clan had safeguarded the eternal undying body for countless years, so they were extremely familiar with its divine abilities. And the eternal true seal sphere was one of them. It was said that the eternal undying body could use the power of a mortal origin to condense the true seal sphere. Once trapped within it, one would be dragged into the endless river of time. Even saint-grade experts would struggle to escape, unable to do anything but be washed away by time, eventually turning to dust. Back in the day, the Immortal Emperor had used this technique to cause the fall of countless heavenly demon emperors. In terms of power, this eternal true seal sphere was not inferior to the 36 peerless divine techniques. However, to condense the eternal true seal sphere, an immense amount of immortal origin was required. But Chen had only just obtained the eternal undying body. How could he have such vast immortal origin? Maha heaven's mind raced, but his face grew more serious, not daring to show any sign of relaxation. He stamped his foot, and the Maha infinite physique beneath him transformed into a flash of black and white light, retreating at lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, it appeared tens of thousands of miles away. Clearly, he intended to temporarily avoid the attack. Buzz. However, just as his figure appeared tens of thousands of miles away, a strange sound came from above. The glazed light sphere howled as it followed him, like a shadow. Maha heaven's expression darkened. His thoughts quickly shifted, and the Maha infinite physique once again carried him, reappearing tens of thousands of miles away. Yet, this evasion was in vain. No matter how fast he moved, the glazed light seemed to lock onto his soul, relentlessly following him. After a dozen breaths, Maha heaven's figure reappeared above the ancient city of 10,000 epochs, his face grim. What's wrong? Not running anymore? Chen asked, his voice laced with a faint, mocking smile. Humph. Do you really think I'm afraid of your eternal undying body's divine technique? Maha heaven's heart swelled with anger. After all, he was the clan leader of the Mo ancient clan. To be repeatedly humiliated by a mere junior was a deep insult to him. Taking a deep breath, he suddenly made a hand seal, and countless afterimages formed around him. At the same time, a burst of black and white energy erupted from the top of the Maha infinite physique, quickly condensing. It soon formed into an enormous black and white umbrella, hovering above his head. Maha heavenly canopy. Maha heaven shouted, his voice reverberating. The black and white umbrella slowly began to spin, exuding endless mystery, as if even if the heavens collapsed, this umbrella would keep everything stable beneath it. Buzz. The glazed light descended from the sky, striking the black and white umbrella. Immediately, the two forces collided, and a fierce battle of energies ensued. Space around them began to collapse as the two powers clashed. Though the black and white spiritual energy was profound, it was still inferior to the power of immortal origin. In this standoff, the black and white light was gradually being eroded. Seeing this, Chen's hand seal shifted. His voice rumbled, eternal true seal sphere, eternal seal. Buzz buzz. Endless glazed light cascaded down, as the glazed light sphere began to expand, eventually engulfing the black and white umbrella and everything beneath it, Maha heaven and the Maha infinite physique completely enveloped within. Inside the eternal true seal sphere, Maha heaven's face turned a deep shade of iron gray. Clatter, clatter. The sound of flowing water echoed from within the eternal true seal sphere, as though rivers of time were appearing, relentlessly washing over everything. Each time they did, the black and white umbrella grew more worn, as though it could not bear the erosion of time. The eternal undying body possessed not only immortality but also the opposite, decay. Therefore, the power of the eternal undying body could use time and age to wash away all obstacles, turning them into dust. In the ancient era, countless heavenly demon emperors were trapped inside eternal true seal spheres, eventually turning into the dust of time. Maha Tian stood atop the Maha infinite physique, his face ashen as he stared at the rapidly fading black and white giant umbrella. With a stamp of his foot, the Maha infinite physique let out a long roar. A black and white streak shot out like the black and white heavenly sword, slashing fiercely towards the eternal true seal sphere. Buzz. However, as soon as the black and white heavenly sword touched the eternal true seal sphere, it quickly faded and decayed, its remnants barely causing ripples to spread across the surface of the sphere. Damn it! Maha Tian gritted his teeth, realizing the difficulty of dealing with the eternal true seal sphere. Could it be that the ancient ancestors, who slew numerous heavenly demon emperors, had infused it with immortal power, transforming it into a time-washing, continuous consuming force? This was truly a top-tier entrapment and annihilation technique. His eyes darkened, and he ceased his pointless attacks. The Maha infinite physique beneath his feet erupted in a vast black and white light, infusing into the black and white giant umbrella. With this massive infusion of spiritual power, the umbrella once again radiated brilliance, protecting both Maha Tian and the Maha infinite physique. Chen, your eternal true seal sphere is indeed powerful, but do you truly believe you are the Immortal Emperor? You think you can trap me with this? Perhaps you've overestimated yourself. Maha Tian shouted fiercely. His words weren't unfounded. While escaping was difficult, the eternal true seal sphere could not erase him. Chen lowered his eyelids and gave a faint smile, offering no reply. He knew very well that even with the help of the eternal true seal sphere, he could not truly trap Maha Tian. But for now, as long as he could contain him, his goal would be achieved. All around them, the powerful figures watching the scene were struck with astonishment. Their eyes were filled with awe as they looked at Chen. Just 6 months ago, the gap between Chen and Maha Tian was like that between heaven and earth. Yet in such a short span of time, Chen had already reached a level where he could stand toe-to-toe with Maha Tian, even managing to trap him with the eternal undying body. Such power was enough to rank among the best in the great thousand worlds. The elders of the Mode ancient clan, on the other hand, were grim expressions, particularly Mohiu, who was gritting his teeth in disbelief. It was clear that he could not accept the fact that even Maha Tian's strike couldn't break Chen's defenses. Impudent boy. Release the clan leader at once. At that moment, 2 elderly figures from the Mode ancient clan, each holding a black and white staff, shouted angrily. Their eyes flashed with a cold, sharp light as they directed their spiritual energy towards Chen. Please, be patient, both of you, said Timing Ancestor with a flick of his sleeve, gathering boundless spiritual energy to block the path of the 2 Saint Great Elders. This battle is between Maha Tian and Chen. Why should you interfere? The matter today is simply due to your Mode ancient clan's breach of trust. Why must you cling to it? Timing Ancestor turned his gaze towards the trapped Maha Tian and said, Maha clan leader, why don't I act as a mediator? Let's all take a step back. I'll ask Chen to desist, and you Mode ancient clan can let go of the eternal undying body. What do you say? The Mode ancient clan was after all deeply rooted and powerful. If this situation escalated, the war that would break out was unimaginable. Maha Tian's eyes turned cold as he shot a glance at Timing Ancestor, sneering. You're truly standing there without understanding the consequences. The ancestors of your Tai Ling ancient clan seized the advantage and obtained the Tai Ling sacred body, which gave rise to the current Tai Ling ancient clan. Meanwhile, my Mode ancient clan fought step by step to reach this point. If we gain the eternal undying body, how could my Mode ancient clan stop here? Years ago, our ancestors were robbed of the eternal undying body by the Immortal Emperor, and now, after tens of thousands of years, how could we let go of this opportunity? Today, no one can take the eternal undying body from my Mode ancient clan. As he spoke, Maha Tian's eyes grew increasingly ferocious, his voice dripping with malice. Without further regard for Timing Ancestor, his blood-red eyes fixed on Chen as he hissed, Chen, do you really think my Mode ancient clan has no depth? You have no right to act recklessly on my Mode ancient clan's territory. Maha Tian sneered coldly, a murderous glint flashing in his eyes. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. As the blood mixed with his seal technique, it transformed into a blood-red symbol. The blood-red symbol shot into the sky and disappeared into the deepest part of the continent. Boom. As the blood-red runes vanished, everyone felt the earth tremble violently. In the depths of the continent, where the Mode ancient clan's ancestral land lay, a towering black and white light pillar shot up into the sky. The pillar connected heaven and earth, and above the ancient city of 10,000 epochs, the space shattered. The black and white light pillar actually descended from the rift in space. Within the black and white pillar, everyone saw a jade bottle, black and white in color, slowly materialize. When the black and white jade bottle appeared, the entire world seemed to shift into black and white, as if yin and yang were converging. An indescribable aura of power emanated from the bottle. Qin Tian, Floating Pagoda Ancestor, Timing Ancestor, and others saw the black and white jade bottle, their expressions changing drastically. Then, a voice broke the silence. The Imminent vase? Tian, are you out of your mind? You've even brought out this clan guardian sacred artifact. Ancient clans like this one possess sacred artifacts that protected their people, such as the floating pagoda clan's ancestral tower, which could shield their entire race. These treasures were of immense importance, and generally, they wouldn't be used unless it was a matter of life or death. When Tian fought the Flame Emperor in the past, he had been forced to use this very artifact to drive him back after he lost the battle. No one had expected that today, facing Chen, Tian would once again summon this treasure. Clearly, in order to seize the eternal undying body, Tian was prepared to go to any lengths. With this, Chen was in grave danger. The black and white aura filled the sky, as if yin and yang were merging to give birth to profound mysteries. The world turned to shades of black and white. The eyes of peak beings from all factions were filled with terror as they gazed at the black and white jade bottle floating in the air. The power radiating from it made even the Heavenly Supreme tremble. Qin Tian, Floating Pagoda Ancestor, Xian Ming Ancestor, and others looked horrified as they stared at the black and white jade bottle. Their eyes were filled with deep wariness. The Imminent vase was the mode ancient clan's clan-protecting treasure, its power limitless. Even an ordinary Saint-grade Heavenly Supreme could not withstand its might. Its power was unimaginable. Such sacred artifacts consumed their own energy with every use, so unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would use them lightly. That's why when they saw Tian use it without hesitation, they all turned pale. Tian has truly gone mad, Timing Ancestor muttered in a low voice. Beside him, Luo Li's delicate face changed slightly, her jade hand tightening. The ancient scroll above her head began to glow with spiritual light. Luo Li, don't do anything rash. The tiling ancient scroll's power is not inferior to that of the Imminent vase, but your strength is not enough to fully unleash it. If you force it, it will harm you, Timing Ancestor hurriedly warned. Luo Li bit her silver teeth, her eyes flashing with cold light and unyielding defiance. Tian's relentless pressure was infuriating. Don't worry. If anything happens to Chen, we won't stand by and watch, Timing Ancestor reassured her, fearing that this little sister might use the tiling ancient scroll in a fit of anger, which could cause her lasting damage. Luo Li clenched her jade hand tightly. After a long pause, she relaxed her grip, slowly regaining her composure. She understood that intervening now might not help, but if Tian truly kept pressing, no matter the cost, she would stand by Chen's side. Chen stood in midair, gazing at the black and white jade bottle. His pupils slightly contracted as he felt the power emanating from it, causing his heart to flutter in fear. As expected of an ancient clan, their foundation is extraordinary, Chen muttered, his voice low. From his estimation, the power of the black and white jade bottle could rank in the top 10 of the entire Great Thousand Worlds. Tian's gaze was as cold as deep ice. He stared at Chen, sneering, before forming a hand seal. In an instant, the Imminent vase slowly tilted in midair, and black and white light began pouring out of its opening. The black and white light was composed of extremely pure spiritual energy, one side fiery hot and the other freezing cold. As they converged, countless profound mysteries were born. When the light fell, all the world's spiritual energy it touched was assimilated into black and white. Therefore, as it descended, it had already transformed into a roaring black and white ocean, finally landing on top of the massive eternal true seal sphere. Hiss. Hiss. The collision between the black and white light stream and the glazed light immediately erupted with a sharp, ear-piercing sound. The two terrifying forces were crazily eroding each other. However, this time, as the black and white light stream continued to flow down, everyone could see the glazed light above the eternal true seal sphere beginning to thin. This was because the power of the eternal true seal sphere was being dissolved. The dissolution lasted for a moment. With a fierce roar, Maha Tian's figure transformed into a black and white light pillar, soaring into the sky and crashing into the eternal true seal sphere. Boom. This time, the black and white light pillar violently broke through the obstruction, and cracks appeared on the surface of the eternal true seal sphere. Finally, it exploded into countless light spots filling the sky. Countless powerful beings in the world watched this scene with shock and awe. By utilizing the power of the Maha vase at this moment, Maha Tian seemed to possess the ability to face off directly with a peak being at the late Saint grade. Faced with such a trump card from Maha Tian, even if Chen had the eternal undying body, he would still be at a disadvantage. After all, no matter how one looked at it, Mu Qin's spiritual power cultivation was only at the mid-immortal grade. Maha Tian stood on the shoulder of his Maha infinite physique, his gaze cold and piercing as he stared at the slightly darkened Mu Qin in the distance. He extended his palm, and the Maha Yin-Yang vase slowly descended, hovering in his palm. "Are you going to hand over the eternal undying body?" Maha Tian's expression was indifferent as he spoke. "Maha clan leader truly holds me in high regard," Mu Qin replied slowly. Maha Tian's eyelids lowered slightly, his voice cold as he said, "Although it may be a bit dishonorable to use this kind of display against you, for the eternal undying body, my Maha ancient clan will not care about such things anymore." He looked at Mu Qin, his tone softening a little as he said, "If you hand over the eternal undying body, my Maha ancient clan will return it to you in 100 years. Mu Qin shook his head. "The eternal undying body has already recognized its master. It's impossible to give it to you." Maha Tian's eyes filled with icy malice. "In that case, I'll have to take it by force." Mu Qin narrowed his eyes and looked deeply at Maha Tian. "Maha clan leader, although your Maha ancient clan has profound depth, don't think you've truly gotten the upper hand over me today." "Heh." Maha Tian sneered coldly, dismissing Mu Qin as merely resisting in vain. "Then today, I will test just what other tricks you have." Maha Tian raised his palm, and the Maha Yin-Yang vase slowly floated up. Its mouth tilted, emitting a terrifying fluctuation. "Maha Tian, don't go too far." At this moment, Qing Yanjing could no longer hold back. Her voice was cold as she spoke. "In front of me, you're forcing my son. Do you truly think I don't exist?" She was very clear about the power of the Maha Yin-Yang vase. With this treasure, Maha Tian could probably face off against even peak figures like the Flame Emperor or Martial Ancestor. "Mother, don't worry. Since Maha Tian wants to bring this upon himself, let him be." However, as Qing Yanjing's voice fell, Mu Qin suddenly spoke to calm her. Upon hearing these words, many powerful beings were stunned. Could it be that Mu Qin still had the power to resist Maha Tian, even with the Maha Yin-Yang vase in his hand? But how could that be possible? In his current state, Maha Tian was more than enough to contend with a peak being at the late Saint grade. While Mu Qin possessed the Saint grade physique and the eternal undying body, he still hadn't reached the level of late Saint grade. Qing Yanjing was also filled with doubt, but due to her trust in Mu Qin, she hesitated for a moment before stepping back, suppressing the terrifying fluctuations around her. Does this kid still have something up his sleeve? How could that be? Timing Ancestor muttered to himself, confusion evident in his voice. At this moment, it was clear that Mu Qin had no more room to turn things around. "You really talk big, kid." Maha Tian sneered angrily. Without hesitation, he formed seals with both hands. The Maha Yin-Yang vase poured out, its mouth flickering with black and white light. Soon, black and white torrents surged out, sweeping toward Mu Qin like an overwhelming storm. Under this black and white torrent, even a saint-grade physique would be reduced to nothing. All eyes in the world gathered on this scene. However, only Mu Qin remained calm. He raised his head and stared at the roaring black and white torrents. When they entered 100-meter range, he sighed lightly, turned around, and bowed towards the ancient eternal tower in the distance. His clear voice rang out. "This Maha Tian is stubborn and ignorant. I implore the senior to make your move." Buzz. Buzz. At the very moment Mu Qin's voice fell, the stone tower suddenly trembled. It seemed as though millions of rays of light erupted from the tower's peak, sweeping up the massive black and white torrent that was rolling towards them, drawing it all into the tower. Boom. At the same time, the stone tower shot up into the sky. With a flash, it appeared atop the Maha Yin-Yang vase, casting a shadow over it. With a thunderous roar, the tower absorbed the vase and then shot back down, crashing heavily onto the ground. Boom. Boom. Within the eternal tower, it felt as if an indescribable shockwave surged. But this shockwave only lasted a moment before everything returned to calm. Up in the sky, the black and white energy dissipated, and the Maha Yin-Yang vase vanished without a trace. This scene unfolded so rapidly that the tower merely rose and fell, yet by the time it landed, the entire world had returned to tranquility. The powerful beings from all directions finally came to their senses. They gazed up at the empty sky, and the sound of cold breaths echoed through the air. What? Maha Tian and the elders of the Maha ancient clan stood frozen, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. What happened? Qin Tian, Tai Ming ancestor, and the others were equally stunned. Their eyes shifted to the stone tower, and at this moment, they vaguely sensed an immense and mysterious power emanating from within it. That power was so overwhelming that even they felt a twinge of fear. This power, Qin Tian, Fu Tu Xian, and the others exchanged a glance before they spoke in awe. It's the Immortal Emperor. The power felt like it transcended even the saint grade. Throughout history, who other than the Immortal Emperor could have wielded such force? Maha Tian's face twisted in shock for a long while before he gradually regained composure. His eyes, bloodshot with rage, locked onto Mu Chun as he growled. Mu Chun, what exactly did you do? Where is the Maha Inyang vase? Mu Chun cast a cold glance at him and replied flatly. The Immortal Emperor placed the eternal undying body within the Maha ancient clan to prevent you from taking it for yourselves. He also left behind measures of balance. When Mu Chun had left the Eternal Tower earlier, the light and shadow within had already informed him that, should the Maha ancient clan attempt to cause trouble, they could call upon the power that lingered in the tower. That power had been left by the Immortal Emperor long ago, specifically to prevent situations like this one. Mu Chun hadn't intended to use it, but with Maha Tian's relentless aggression and even calling upon the clan's sacred artifact, he had no choice but to invoke the power left by the Immortal Emperor. The power within the Eternal Tower will last for a year. After that, the tower will dissipate, and the Maha Inyang vase will naturally be released. Mu Chun looked at Maha Tian calmly and said, "At this point, does the Mo clan still intend to force the issue?" Maha Tian's face twitched, his eyes burning with fury. The realization that the Immortal Emperor had anticipated their every move, even when he had left the Eternal Tower, infuriated him beyond measure. I, the proud leader of the Maha ancient clan, will not let a mere junior lecture me. Maha Tian's voice turned cold as his eyes gleamed with murderous intent. Today, I'll see how a fallen Immortal Emperor can suppress my Maha ancient clan. To take the eternal undying body, then declare war on the Maha ancient clan. His roar reverberated through the heavens and earth. Maha ancient clan, prepare for battle. The elders of the Maha ancient clan immediately responded, unleashing overwhelming spiritual power that shook the very fabric of the world. Qin Tian and Tai Ming ancestor looked on with grim expressions. It seemed that Maha Tian had truly lost control. If that's the case, then the Futu ancient clan will accompany you to the end. Qin Tian took a deep breath and spoke coldly. Tai Ming ancestor sighed, his expression complicated. If it comes to that, then the Tai Ling ancient clan has no choice but to get involved. Maha Tian threw his head back and laughed wildly, his fury turning into a bitter, maniacal laugh. Good. Today, my Maha ancient clan will challenge the two of you and see if you can do anything to stop us. Outside the ancient city of 10,000 epochs, powerful beings from all directions watched in horror. Was it really happening? The three ancient clans were about to go to war? If so, it would surely send shockwaves throughout the great thousand worlds. Mu Chun watched the scene with cold eyes. Boom. Just as the tension in the air reached its breaking point, the sound of an ancient bell echoed from afar, as if calling out from a distant place. The sound of a bell rang through the air, and the eyes of the peak beings such as Maha Tian, Qin Tian, and Tai Ming ancestor all focused intently. They looked up, gazing into the void. Is this the Great Thousand Bell of the Palace of the Great Thousand? Under their gaze, a beam of light shot forth from the void. Within the light, a massive figure stepped through the air, releasing a pressure that shook the world. At the same time, a mighty and resonant voice echoed across the land. On this day's battle, I ask that both sides, for the face of my palace of the Great Thousand, cease fighting and put down your weapons. Maha Tian, Qin Tian, and the others looked at the towering figure with solemn expressions. They hadn't expected that even this person would appear today. It was the demon-slaying king of the palace of the Great Thousand, Qin Tian. The mighty voice reverberated through the heavens and earth. Countless gazes, filled with awe, were fixed upon the figure stepping out from the beam of light. The figure, surrounded by a shimmering starry aura, had robes that seemed to carve out rivers and mountains, with eyes as deep as the abyss. Simply standing there, he exuded an overwhelming presence, like he could hold up the sky itself. Palace of the Great Thousand, demon-slaying king, Qin Tian. The surrounding powerhouses gasped in astonishment upon seeing him. In the Great Thousand World, there were many superpowers, but everyone knew that only the Palace of the Great Thousand could be considered the strongest, for it encompassed all the living beings within the Great Thousand World. The so-called Palace of the Great Thousand was more like an alliance of the entire Great Thousand World, a coalition formed to resist the extraterritorial evil clans. The founder of the Palace of the Great Thousand was the Immortal Emperor. It was during the ancient era that the appearance of the Palace of the Great Thousand unified the powers of the Great Thousand World, stopping all the factions from fighting amongst themselves. They came together as one, eventually managing to resist the invasion of the extraterritorial evil clans. In the ancient Great War, it was the Palace of the Great Thousand that played a pivotal role in defending the world. Even now, the top giants still held great respect for the palace. Powerhouses like the Flame Emperor and Martial Ancestor, who stood at the peak, still held elder positions within the Palace of the Great Thousand. Within this mighty palace, to rise in rank, one needed to earn demon-slaying points. Only by slaying a heavenly demon emperor could one earn this title. In the ancient era, such a feat may not have been that rare, but in the current era of peace, to kill a heavenly demon emperor meant entering the territories of the evil clans. Even a saint-grade heavenly supreme would not dare take such a risk lightly. As a result, in the thousands of years since, the Palace of the Great Thousand had only seen one demon-slaying king, a peerless powerhouse who had ventured into the evil domain and returned victorious. That peerless figure was none other than the man before them now, Qin Tian. Compared to Chen, who had lucked into the title of demon-slaying king, Qin Tian had earned his by slaying the extraterritorial evil clans in battle. Because of this, even the prideful Maha Tian felt a change in his expression, his demeanor filled with caution. Brother Qin Tian, this matter concerns the moat ancient clan. Shouldn't the Palace of the Great Thousand stay out of it? Maha Tian took a deep breath, speaking solemnly. Qin Tian's sleeve fluttered lightly in the wind as he smiled at Maha Tian. His voice was deep and powerful as he replied, Maha clan leader, why cling so to the immortal golden body? This primordial law body has remained in the mode ancient clan for tens of thousands of years, yet you have never claimed it. Clearly, you are not fated to possess it. Maha Tian's face darkened. If anyone else had spoken those words, he would have struck them down immediately. But the man before him was different. Qin Tian had already reached the late saint grade, a peak powerhouse ranked among the top 10 in the Great Thousand World. He could rival the Flame Emperor, Martial Ancestor, and other giants. If Maha Tian held the Maha Yin-Yang vase, he might be able to stand against him. But the vase was currently suppressed by the stone tower, and facing a late saint-grade powerhouse like Qin Tian would put him at a severe disadvantage. Moreover, the Palace of the Great Thousand, though it refrained from interfering in the struggles of other factions during times of peace, still carried immense authority. Even the moat ancient clan had to show respect. However, if Chen were allowed to take the immortal golden body without a fight, how could Maha Tian accept it? Brother Qin Tian, my moat ancient clan has protected the immortal golden body for tens of thousands of years. We have worked hard and sacrificed for it. How can Chen simply take it away without any difficulty? Maha Tian took a deep breath, his eyes flashing. I have already made a concession. I have allowed him to keep the immortal golden body within the moat ancient clan for 100 years. After that, I will not stop him from taking it back. Upon hearing this, Qin Tian seemed to smile slightly and said, Maha clan leader, I am not here to engage in pointless conversation. I have come today because I received a message from the Flame Emperor and Martial Ancestor. Maha Tian's expression slightly stiffened, and the elders of the Mo ancient clan also changed their faces, a trace of fear flashing in their eyes. Facing the Futu ancient clan and Tailing ancient clan, the Mo ancient clan could still hold on with gritted teeth. But if the Boundless Fire Domain and Martial Realm were added to the mix, even the Mo ancient clan would struggle to bear the pressure. Especially considering that the Mo ancient clan had once fought with the Boundless Fire Domain, with Maha Tian losing to the Flame Emperor, the outcome being a crushing defeat. If not for the Maha Yin-Yang vase, the Mo ancient clan might have lost all face that day. Now, the Flame Emperor was no longer the immortal grade novice he once was. He had surpassed Maha Tian, stepping into the late immortal grade, becoming one of the peak beings in the Great Thousand Worlds. The Boundless Fire Domain had grown even stronger, its foundation rivaling that of the Moat ancient clan. Not to mention, there was the Martial Ancestor and Martial Realm, whose strength was no less than that of the Flame Emperor or the Boundless Fire Domain. Outside the ancient city of 10,000 epochs, All the forces couldn't help but murmur in awe. Who could have expected that today's events would bring together so many powerful factions? Maha Tian's face turned ashen, and his anger reached its peak. Originally, he had planned to suppress others with his strength, but who would have thought that in the end, he would taste the bitter fruit of his own actions? The Boundless Fire Domain, Martial Realm, Palace of the Great Thousand, Futu Ancient Clan, Tiling Ancient Clan. These 5 forces together could shake the entire Great Thousand Worlds. Even the Mo Ancient Clan would be powerless against such overwhelming might. Brother Qin Tian, are you trying to pressure my Mo Ancient Clan with strength? Maha Tian said with a dark expression. Qin Tian looked at Maha Tian, his expression slowly becoming serious. He spoke slowly. Maha Clan leader, the Great Thousand World is facing a crisis. The extraterritorial evil clan is moving. In such a time, the eternal undying body recognizing a master is beneficial for the countless beings of the Great Thousand World. I hope you can prioritize the greater good. Far away, Chen was slightly shaken upon hearing this. Connecting it with the Flame Emperor and martial ancestors' inability to extricate themselves, he began to feel uneasy. Was the extraterritorial evil clan about to rise again? Maha Tian fell silent. At this point, he realized that it was probably impossible to reclaim the eternal undying body. Since the other party had offered a way out, he had no choice but to accept it. If he didn't, it would only be the Mo Ancient Clan who would suffer in the end. Since even the Palace of the Great Thousand has intervened, my Mo Ancient Clan naturally cannot be ungrateful. Maha Tian finally spoke, his overwhelming spiritual energy gradually retracting as he coldly looked at Chen. However, he must return our Maha in Yang vase. Qin Tian's gaze also turned to Chen, and he smiled gently. King Mu, enemy should be resolved, not further antagonized. Since the Maha clan leader has made a concession, shouldn't you do the same? Since Qin Tian had spoken, Chen naturally would not refuse. He nodded immediately, as he also didn't wish to go to war with the Mo Ancient Clan. Though supported by the Futu and Tiling ancient clans, such a large-scale conflict would inevitably lead to the fall of a heavenly supreme, a cost far too great for both sides. Being able to force Maha Tian to take a step back was already the best outcome. Chen turned around and cupped his hands toward the Eternal Tower. Since the matter is resolved, I ask the seniors to act once more. As his words fell, the Eternal Tower trembled, and countless beams of light shot out from its pinnacle. Among them, a black light emerged and transformed into a black and white jade vase. Seeing this, Maha Tian quickly gestured, and the black and white jade vase fell into his hands. After inspecting it carefully and finding no damage, he let out a long breath of relief. As expected, this is a force left by the Immortal Emperor. Even after tens of thousands of years, it remains powerful, Qin Tian remarked as he gazed at the Eternal Tower. Despite his strength in the late immortal grade, he still felt a sense of awe before the ancient power within the tower. However, the ancient power inside the Eternal Tower seemed to begin dissipating after a brief fluctuation, and even the surface of the tower was cracking. Chen looked at this scene and bowed once more before the Eternal Tower. The surrounding factions, seeing the tense atmosphere finally easing, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Divine beings fighting like this affected too many people, and even a heavenly supreme would be wary of getting involved. Now that this conflict had come to an end, it was perhaps the best outcome. Brother Qin Tian, it's an honor to have you visit my Mo Ancient Clan. We should have given you a grand reception, but given the chaos within the clan right now, all we can offer is a simple one. Mo Tian looked at the ruined ancient city of 10,000 epochs, a bitter anger bubbling in his chest. He didn't wish to stay any longer, so he cupped his hands in salute to Qin Tian and then vanished into the horizon in a flash of light. The other elders of the Mo Ancient Clan also quickly followed suit. Qin Tian, seeing Mo Tian's actions, wasn't bothered by them. After all, his arrival had caused the Mo Ancient Clan to lose their eternal undying bodies, so some resentment was to be expected. Besides, he wasn't here for the Mo Ancient Clan in the first place. With a flick of his sleeve, Qin Tian's gaze turned toward Chen. He took a step forward, appearing right in front of him, and with a smile, he said, I had already heard that a demon-slaying king had emerged from the palace of the Great Thousand. Today, I finally get to meet you. Facing the true demon-slaying king of the palace of the Great Thousand, Chen showed respect and replied, Senior Qin Tian, you're too kind. How much merit is there in my title of demon-slaying king? Surely, Senior is aware of this, right? Qin Tian laughed heartily, his voice resonating with power and grandeur. No matter how you acquired it, as long as you've gained it, it's your destiny. And now, you truly deserve to be called the demon-slaying king. In the past, Chen might have found it impossible to defeat a heavenly demon emperor, but now, with his saint-grade physique and eternal undying body, his combat prowess could rival the peak of a mid-saint-grade expert. He could certainly slay an ordinary heavenly demon emperor. Chen smiled and cupped his hands, saying, "No matter what, I must thank you today, senior. Otherwise, it would have been hard to resolve things." Though he wasn't afraid of Mo Tian, he didn't want to drag the Futu ancient clan or the Tiling ancient clan into the conflict. Qin Tian waved his hand and sighed. If the three great ancient clans go to war, the consequences would be too severe. Now is not the time for internal strife. He paused for a moment, then added, "But the reason I'm here today is not only to prevent a war between the three clans, but also to complete another task." As his voice fell, Qin Tian's sleeve flicked, and several golden lights shot out. They flew straight toward Qin Yinjing, Futu Xian, Timing Ancestor, and even three others who were heading toward the direction where Mo Tian and the others had left. When the golden light reached them, Qin Yinjing and the others immediately became solemn. "What is this?" Chen's eyes flickered with surprise as he sensed that within the golden light, there seemed to be a golden invitation. Qin Tian smiled at Chen and said, "Now, you two are qualified to receive this golden invitation." As he spoke, another beam of golden light flew out from his sleeve, slowly descending toward Chen. Chen stretched out his hand, and the golden light landed in his palm. As it retracted, a golden invitation, seemingly forged from pure gold, quietly rested in his hand. He focused his attention on it and saw three ancient characters inscribed on the golden invitation. "Great Thousand Golden Invitation. Great Thousand Golden Invitation?" Chen stared at the four ancient characters on the invitation, murmuring to himself with a look of confusion in his eyes. Clearly, he didn't fully understand what this item represented. "Never thought I'd have the chance to receive the Great Thousand Golden Invitation." As Chen pondered, Qin Yinjing drifted over, holding up the golden invitation in her hand and speaking with a hint of wonder. "What exactly is this?" Chen asked, still puzzled. Qin Tian smiled slightly, then his expression grew serious as he explained, "In the ancient era, the Immortal Emperor and the heavenly evil god battled, ending the invasion of the extraterritorial evil clan into the Great Thousand Worlds. The result of that battle was the heavenly evil god being sealed at Northern Wilderness Hill. However, the heavenly evil god's life force is unbelievably resilient. Though he was sealed after losing the battle to the Immortal Emperor, he was not completely erased. After that, every 1,000 years, the Palace of the Great Thousand opens the Great Thousand Pact and sends out the Great Thousand Invitation, gathering the peak powerhouses of the Great Thousand World to assemble at Northern Wilderness Hill. The combined strength is used to activate the sealing force and eradicate the remaining life force of the heavenly evil god. And the Golden Invitation is reserved for the Heavenly Supreme. There are 3 levels of the Great Thousand Invitation: gold, silver, and iron, corresponding to the 3 realms of the Heavenly Supreme. Only a saint-grade Heavenly Supreme can receive the Golden Invitation. As Qin Tian spoke, his tone grew even more solemn, and he continued, "According to the Immortal Emperor's predictions, once the seal has been activated for 49,000 years, the heavenly evil god will be completely erased. Up to now, the Palace of the Great Thousand has issued 48 Great Thousand Invitations, and this is the 49th. Upon hearing this, Chen's pupils slightly contracted, and he finally understood the immense importance of the Great Thousand Invitation. Is the heavenly evil god really that terrifying? Even the seal set by the Immortal Emperor at the cost of his own life requires such a long period of time to completely erase him. Chen inhaled deeply, his voice barely hiding his shock. Qin Tian was silent for a moment before he bitterly said, "The power of the heavenly evil god is indeed beyond imagination. So no matter the cost, we must eradicate him within the seal. If the seal fails, it will be a catastrophic disaster for all living beings in the Great Thousand World. After all, we no longer have the Immortal Emperor." Beside them, Qin Yinjing, Futu Xian, and Timing Ancestor all wore somber expressions, clearly understanding how brutal the consequences would be for the Great Thousand World if it came to that. If the heavenly evil god is this powerful, could the extraterritorial evil clan try to break the seal? Chen asked with a grave face. They naturally want to interfere, but the seal left by the Immortal Emperor at Northern Wilderness Hill can only be approached by the beings of the Great Thousand World. The extraterritorial evil clan cannot enter. Qin Tian nodded, narrowing his eyes. But recently, the extraterritorial evil clan has been stirring, restraining the Flame Emperor and Martial Ancestor. This factor is certainly at play. Mu Qin's expression grew even more serious. He now fully understood the significance of the Great Thousand Pact. It was the cornerstone of peace in the Great Thousand World. Compared to this grand scheme, everything else could be set aside. When will the Great Thousand Pact begin? Qin Yinjing asked gravely. In 3 months, Qin Tian's eyes gleamed with a sharp light as he clenched his fists. A chilling killing aura emanated from his body. This time, we must eradicate the calamity of the Great Thousand World once and for all. Mu Qin nodded slightly. The heavenly evil god was far too powerful. If he wasn't eliminated, all living beings in the Great Thousand World would live in constant fear. It was like a world-ending volcano. Once it erupted, it would sweep across the entire Great Thousand World. Will all the heavenly supremes of the Great Thousand World receive the Great Thousand Invitation? Qin Tian nodded. All heavenly supremes will receive it, but less than half will actually head to Northern Wilderness Hill. After all, they still need to keep an eye on the extraterritorial evil clan. That's truly the grandest event in the Great Thousand World, Mu Qin sighed. Almost half of the heavenly supremes gathering together. What a spectacular sight that would be. In comparison, the scenes Mu Qin had witnessed before seemed trivial. Indeed, it is a grand event because it concerns the peace of the Great Thousand World. Any past grudges and enmities must be put aside for this. Qin Tian glanced in the direction where Emoku and the others had left, then said, "That's why I had to come, to prevent a conflict between the 3 clans. The Mo Ancient Clan, Futu Ancient Clan, and Tiling Ancient Clan were all heavyweight powers in the Great Thousand World. If they wasted their strength on internal strife at such a critical time, it would be unbearable." Mu Qin understood this and immediately straightened his expression. "Rest assured, Senior Qin Tian. Today's matter is resolved. I've gained a slight advantage, and even if Imoku comes after me in the future, I will show restraint. After all, with the eternal Undying body now in his possession, the Moat Ancient Clan could only swallow their anger, so there was no need for him to be overly aggressive." Qin Tian smiled in satisfaction. "It's best that you're considering the bigger picture. But don't worry, if Imoku crosses the line, we, the Palace of the Great Thousand, won't sit idly by. After all, you are the demon-slaying king of the Great Thousand Palace." Mu Qin smiled. Though Imoku was arrogant, he wasn't a fool. After today's events, he should realize that Mu Qin was not someone the Moat Ancient Clan could easily trample on. "I've completed my task for today, and I must move on. Time is tight, and there are other sacred experts to deliver the invitations to." Qin Tian chatted with Mu Qin for a while longer before clasping his hands in farewell. Mu Qin understood the importance of the situation and didn't try to keep him longer. He returned the salute. "Hopefully, 3 months from now, at Northern Wilderness Hill, we can all have a good conversation," Qin Tian said with a hearty laugh before shooting into the sky, his overwhelming aura spreading across the heavens. Qin Yinjing, Futu Xian, and Timing Ancestor watched Qin Tian's retreating figure, their expressions complex. The storm is coming. The heavenly evil god is like a deity to the extraterritorial evil clan, and they must surely understand the importance of the Great Thousand Pact. Therefore, this time, the Great Thousand Pact will undoubtedly not pass quietly. The extraterritorial evil clan will surely spare no effort in attempting to break the seal and free the heavenly evil god. Mu Qin slightly nodded. Although Qin Tian hadn't revealed many details earlier, given who they were, how could they not sense the significance Qin Tian attached to the Great Thousand Pact? Otherwise, even if the Great Thousand Golden Invitation were sent, there would be no need for the legendary demon-slaying King Qin Tian to personally take action. The extraterritorial evil clan is lurking, yet who would have thought that the Northern Wilderness Hill harbors such a terrifying hidden danger? Mu Qin sighed softly. This secret, fortunately, he had reached the heavenly supreme level, or else he would likely have never been able to touch upon it. Usually, the Northern Wilderness Hill is a forbidden place even for beings from the Great Thousand World. It is known as the Land of 10,000 Graves, guarded by a group of tomb guardians. These guardians are directly under the command of the Immortal Emperor, with their leader known as the Undying Lord. His strength is extraordinary, possibly not inferior to the Flame Emperor or Martial Ancestor. However, he has spent his entire life guarding the Northern Wilderness Hill and never sets foot in the Great Thousand World, so his fame is not widely spread. Futu Xian spoke slowly. Land of 10,000 Graves. Undying Lord. Mu Qin's expression hardened, and his eyes narrowed. The Great Thousand World truly hides dragons and crouching tigers. If the extraterritorial evil clan launches a large-scale invasion, can our Great Thousand World resist? Mu Chen suddenly asked, as if recalling something. Qin Yanjing and Fu Tuxian exchanged a glance before replying. In terms of overall strength, the current Great Thousand World is not weaker than in the ancient era. In fact, it might be stronger. The Flame Emperor, martial ancestor, demon-slaying King Qin Tian, the Sword Saint in green robes, the Undying Lord, and others stand at the pinnacle of the world. The 5 ancient clans each have their own profound heritage, and other top-tier superpowers continue to emerge. So, if the extraterritorial evil clan truly seeks to invade again, the Great Thousand World is far from powerless. However, the only issue is that the Great Thousand World no longer has a second Immortal Emperor. As you know, the Immortal Emperor transcends Saint grade. Therefore, as long as we can activate the seal and completely erase the heavenly evil god, the extraterritorial evil clan's ambitions will be difficult to realize. Mu Chen gently nodded, muttering, "The extraterritorial evil clan is probably very aware of this." Because of this situation, it seems the extraterritorial evil clan will not stand idly by and watch the heavenly evil god be sealed and killed. Therefore, the Great Thousand Pact is likely to provoke a storm of blood and carnage. Faced with such a huge pressure, even Mu Chen, in his current state, felt immense weight. As his mind swirled with these thoughts, a delicate hand, as soft as warm jade, gently grasped his palm. He turned his head and saw Luo Li's exquisite face, smooth and flawless like porcelain. She winked and smiled at him, and a wave of tenderness immediately washed over him, causing his tense mood to ease. The furrowed brow slowly relaxed. He clasped her small hand in his, then raised his gaze to the slanting sunset in the sky. The clouds were like flames, and his dark eyes reflected the burning fire. With someone so beautiful by his side, no matter how fierce the extraterritorial evil clan may be, if they attempt to destroy all of this, Mu Chen would naturally have no fear of fighting them, willing to risk his life to protect it. I've worked for decades to reach this point. How could I allow you to destroy everything I've fought for? If the demons are to come, it will only be one battle.